So time is, and I actually did some research into this a little bit ago. Time is actually a cosmic force.
Okay.
People confuse it with like the clock, with how we measure time.
Yeah.
And they say it's a social construct. So yeah, how we measure time is a social construct.
That's why we was able to change time.
Right. That's why we can, but time and space are tied. You can't have one without the other.
Okay.
And so if you research like black holes and stuff, like you'll move through space and time, because that's why it's called the space-time continuum, because they are one thing.
What's good, y'all? It's Mikal Settle with Blaise Training, Never Settle. And now I'm super excited because we just got a new training app to service our people. So listen, if you're interested in losing 15 to 20 pounds or even gaining 15 to 20 pounds, this is the opportunity for you to reach out to me so we can start to service you a little better, okay? Now, reach out to me directly or comment your information below, and so we can set up a consultation meeting with you for free. Just gonna be 10 minutes of your time to figure out some of your struggles, some of your goals, and some of the motivation behind your goals, so we can start to service you better and move forward in the process to help you reach your fitness goals, okay? And then you never know, you might end up even being here training with me at Aspen Active, all right? I hope to see you guys later, and never settle.
Man, what is good? We're back again with another great guest, another great Monday, and we have our guest Aniekan with us. A powerful name, and can you tell us the meaning of your name too?
Yeah, so it's a Nigerian name. It means there's nothing greater than the power of God.
Man, that's powerful, bro.
Give me shivers.
Yeah, it does. That's powerful. That's powerful, man, and I love it. I really do. And like I said earlier, it shows like the power of. I mean, that's bars, the power, but it shows like the power of the tongue. But then also like, I feel like that's why it's very important we like be very diligent, but then also careful what we name our kids, because we speak that into them every day and they got to live by that, you know? And so I feel like that's very important. So shout out to your parents or whoever named you.
Oh yeah, shout out my parents. Yeah. They definitely, they both agreed on it, but it was my dad's idea. But shout out both of them.
No, for real.
Yeah, they... It was a good choice.
No, 100%, 100%. And so before we kind of dive into the conversation, is each week we'll do a book of the week. And so each week I'm gonna challenge y'all to look one of these books up or get it. And so this book is Before the Mayflower. And to me, I consider it more of a textbook, like just because of like I kind of briefly showed you, is like it shows different periods of our history in America, but a lot of the history that we really don't learn about,
right? You
know, and it gives good like both sides to the story. And I feel like as humans, we should always try to read both sides of the story from both people, you know?
Yeah.
And so, so I feel like that's very important. So look, check it out. Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. And let me know what you guys think. And so to kind of dive into things, like the other day I got a chance to buy your comic book, right?
Yep.
And so can you kind of tell us like the title, and then like give us like a good background or kind of like the inspiration behind it, because you could tell it's very like you put a lot of time into it. And like I told you, my little brother loves the comic book for real. So can you kind of tell us about like what inspired it and like the time you took to do it?
Yeah. So it was, it's funny. It actually started out, as a contest for a webcomic app, Webtoons. Okay. And me and one of my homegirls that's in DC, shout out Ricaria, we did that for the contest. And I'm a thinker, bro. Like when I write stuff, like I'd be like, how can I weave life lessons and spiritual aspects and astrophysics? And so I put a lot of thought into it, but it was mainly based on a chapter in Galatians that says our war is not with flesh and blood, but against the evil principalities and dark powers in the world. So, you know, it's a spiritual battle. Yeah. And so the title of it is called REM Shadow Work, because REM, like REM sleep. Yeah. That's when, you know, when people get trapped in like sleep paralysis or whatever. They're like in between sleep and awake.
Okay.
And their brain is still opened up to perceiving spiritual things, because when you're asleep, you know, the vessel is open and you're communing. Like that's what part of what dreaming is and stuff. That's how people get prophetic dreams and stuff. Because when you're asleep, you're kind of opened up more.
Okay.
And so I kind of wanted to implement that in there. And so the basis of the story and reason why the subtitle is shadow work is because shadow work is when like you like go through and deal with past traumas and, you know, just working through those things.
Okay.
At least that's how it was explained to me.
Yeah.
But so the main character had some past stuff that he was working through, and it was it added kind of a mysterious aspect to it. But basically he can see people's individual, you know, demons.
Oh, wow.
Or whatever they're going through. They're called nightmares in the comic. And so he ends up fighting, you know, these things. He enters into the it's called the REM state, and time freezes, and he enters into the spirit realm. And so he starts fighting all these shadows and nightmares and stuff. And but then it also shows that he has conversations with the people that the nightmares were attached to. And so there's one dude, like he was robbing somebody, and the main character intervened. And it really shows you that, like, you know, kind of how you were saying, there's kind of two sides of stuff. Like, yeah, he's robbing dude, but then when he started talking to him, he was like, yeah, my daughter's hungry, this, that, and the third, because the country that is set in is like after a revolution. So there's like, there's a lot of people that are needing things and stuff.
Yeah.
And so the dude was like just trying to feed his daughter. He didn't have a lot, you know, stuff like that. And so it really shows you that, like, instead of trying to fight somebody or trying to do, I mean, sometimes that's necessary.
Yeah.
But talking to people and really getting to where their heart is at, what they believe in, what they're going through, as hard as it is to do that sometimes, you can really do a lot more good and not only help yourself or whoever that victim might have been, but also helping the person that was going through something that caused them to think that was necessary.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's almost like I feel like people, the most intelligent people, are misunderstood. And then also too is like a lot of people don't take the time to understand what people were going through, or like the root like of the problem. And so like you writing that story, do you feel like you're misunderstood sometimes?
Yeah. I feel like I'm misunderstood a lot of times, but not necessarily because of me. I feel like I'm misunderstood because of my faith, and there's a lot of stigma and stuff that goes around, you know, Christianity, which is the reason why I don't even necessarily, like, people ask me like, oh, what do you believe in? Like, I don't necessarily call myself a Christian, because like I think of like some old bigot that's like, oh, you're going to hell for living, for breathing, you know, and that's not what it is. You know, it's love. That's literally the root of the whole Bible, everything. Like, if you miss this point, you're missing the point of my faith is love. Okay. And so I feel like I'm misunderstood because there is that stigma around the book that I read. Okay. But 9 times out of 10, when people have a conversation with me about it, we end up agreeing on a lot of things, and they end up, you know, I end up learning things about other beliefs. They end up learning about what following God is supposed to be actually. And so again, conversations, it really brings that common ground. And if there is a misunderstanding, you know, given the chance to elaborate on what you mean and really, really give where you're coming from. Because a matter of fact, I just got into it with my brother the other day, and you know, he was saying that I was being judgmental. I didn't make any accusations, or I asked him a question, and he got offended by the question I asked, I guess. But I was asking a question so I could learn. You know, you ask questions to learn.
100%.
And so, but he had an assumption about where I was standing at. Okay. And so, you know, and I tried to clear it up, and you know, but and that stuff happens, and it's okay. And that's my brother, so we just boxed afterward. No, we ain't boxed, but no, you know, so it's just having those conversations to be able to clear up misunderstandings.
No, 100%. There's something that you talked about, the freezing of time in the book, for then him to go back and fight his nightmares, right? The people that the nightmares was attached to, and so he talked about like astrophysics and stuff like that. So what's your perception on time?
So time is, and I actually did some research into this a little bit ago. Time is actually a cosmic force.
Okay.
People confuse it with like the clock, with how we measure time.
Yeah.
And they say it's a social construct. So yeah, how we measure time is a social construct.
That's why we was able to change time.
Right. That's why we can, but time and space are tied. You can't have one without the other.
Okay.
And so if you research like black holes and stuff, like you'll move through space and time, because that's why it's called the space-time continuum, because they are one thing.
Yeah.
If you have space, there's time there. Regardless of how fast or slow it's moving, there's time there. And so it's a fundamental fiber of existence.
Okay.
And I think that if you're on a planet that has like 100 times the amount of gravity as Earth, I would think that time moves 100 times faster. So I'm a sci-fi nerd. So like, I've seen movies and stuff where time moves faster on other planets and stuff. And that's, those are the kinds of things that I think about because of that. But
no, 100%.
But yeah, time is a force. Like it's a thing that you can't really escape unless you escape space. But if you escape space, you're probably dead.
Yeah. So. No, 100%. Yeah. No, for sure. And so that's why I was just asking, because I wanted to just, get a quick understanding on like what you believe time is and everything like that. Because I do feel like time is misunderstood. Yeah. And so as far as like even diving back into the book, what are some things that you also may have learned about yourself, like while writing the book? Like, cause I can tell you put a lot of thought into it. Just diving into that and talking about like breaking down sleep, but then putting it in that way, but then also the spiritual battle. Yeah. So like, what are some things you may have learned about yourself while writing that book?
So I don't know if it would have been while writing it, but there's definitely things that I pulled from things that I have learned. Okay. And that's, again, having conversations with people, being patient and being loving when trying to bridge the gap. Also suffering through things, because like I said, the country is in a post-revolution state. Things are destroyed. A lot of people died. It's a time of hardship. Times of hardship can really mold you. Yeah. And it's one thing that I learned in basic training too, but you find your true self when everything is stripped away, when everything is at its worst. That's when your true character comes out. Yeah. And for better or for worse. And so I had when I wrote it, it was before I went to basic, but I'm just going through life and stuff. There's a lot of times, I learned some things about myself because, if I was willing to steal something, or if I was willing to, kind of rip somebody off or something.
100%.
And so once I grew and matured and stuff, I just, for my own sense of integrity, it was just like, yeah, that's not who I am. I'm not that guy. Yeah. And so kind of implementing that into the story, just being like showing how environment can affect people. Yeah. But you still have an individual accountability. Yeah. And it's not to disregard what we're going through. Like Afro-Americans, we got a lot going on. Every reason to act some kind of way or feel how we do, and it would be valid. Yeah. I believe that there's a good choice in a lot of things, and then there's a better choice. Yeah. It's a good choice to be mad at the people that did it to us. Yeah. And you can still be mad. There's a righteous anger. But I think it would be a better option to hold on to that righteous anger, because that's what fuels you, and you know it's injustice. But not only be angry at them, and also try to help them, because they're the ones with the problem. Yeah. The people oppressing us are the ones with the problem. And so we have to help them, whether we like it or not. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going. Because we can protest, we can do all these things that we're doing, but if they don't change, they're not going to change. Yeah. So if we want to do that through social norms, through new laws and politics, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But one way to do it is just sitting down and having a conversation with somebody. And I learned this from my dad. I didn't understand it for a long time. He has this friend, white dude. actually from South Africa.
Oh, wow.
So his, if you know anything about South African history, white people from South Africa are
super oppressive.
Yeah, there's a lot of racism ingrained in their culture there.
Yeah.
And so, but him and my dad are really good friends. My dad's a super dark dude.
Yeah.
Once I saw their friendship, it really started opening my mind to like how I can make change, you know?
Okay.
And then it really started shining light on the verse that says, love your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, and it's and not everybody's called to do that.
Yeah.
But if it is an option that somebody would want to pursue, it definitely can make a lot of change.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And so, yeah, that's powerful. I feel like it's very important, loving. Once you, I think I said this way, I said it yesterday, is like once you kind of let go of that hate towards anybody, you kind of stop hating yourself. Yeah. You know, because hate truly like takes more energy out of you rather than the person you're actually hating. And so one thing you spoke on a little earlier too is I want to ask you about is spiritual battles. Like I do believe it's a spiritual battle, and like there's a lot of different ways we're attacked spiritually that we really don't realize, you know, and because everything in the universe is energy really, you know? Right, yeah. And so can you talk about like some of the ways that spiritually we may be like being attacked in the spiritual war that you believe is going on?
Man, so many ways.
Yeah, so many ways.
So many ways.
So that's what you made me think of earlier. So I'm like, I got to touch on that too.
So many ways. So I personally have like a personal beef with a couple of specific things. I used to, in my younger years, I used to, you know, I was smoking and drinking and whatever, you know, but those, when your mind is not sober, you are opened up to spirits. And I mean, if anybody, I haven't done LSD or anything, but people who have some friends that I know, they'll tell you like, bro, yeah, I either saw some stuff or like whatever, you know, I've heard some stories of some crazy stuff, and it's just you're opening your mind and your body to those spirits. Yeah. And so drugs and alcohol, that's a clear one that is like you're pushing into a realm that you probably don't really want to be in.
No, 100%.
And then, but another one is just like, you know, the oversaturation of sexual content in mainstream media and stuff. And like, just, you know, however people view sexuality and stuff, because there's a huge sexual liberation thing going on. Yeah. Which, if that's how you want to live, do you?
100%.
But when like a 5, 6, 7-year-old is being exposed to it, that's a problem. Regardless of like what the specific context is, sexuality should not be exposed to young minds like that, because it really messes up how you interpret it and view it when you get older. Yeah. And so, and it has to be introduced in a healthy way with a healthy conversation. Otherwise, like in middle school, friends make up all kinds of stuff, but like, nah, bro, you got to do it like this because this is what sex is really about. Or this is what they give you all so much like random stuff. So, and so those are just a couple of points that I specifically have.
As far as
have beef
spiritual
with
battle,
spiritual battles, but everything physically is a manifestation of the spiritual. So like if you're going through something, if you like, people are addicted to porn, I was addicted to Xbox, bro. It's all spiritual. And once you get like, and that doesn't really seem like a big deal, but it was taking time away from my family, from writing, from making music, from being a productive person.
100%. And
so it was a spirit of laziness. Is what I discovered, because I started looking into it, studying it. Why do I feel so attached to this freaking Xbox? Yeah. And it's a spirit of laziness. And that was just one thing that spirit was using to distract me from fulfilling my purpose. Yes. So I could go all day about that.
No, yeah. And you was dropping some gems, bro. And it's a real spiritual heavy battle, and like it gets real dark. And so before, man, we dive into a little more, and we're gonna take a quick break. Make sure y'all, man, I hope y'all tune back in. Make sure you like and subscribe.
What's good, y'all? It's Mikal Settle with Blaise Training Never Settle. Now listen, I want you to stay tuned for this new ebook we got coming out. It's gonna be fire. Great efficient workouts, whether it's the home workouts or the gym workouts. So stay tuned. Enjoy the rest of the show. Peace.
What's good, y'all? We are back. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we had to switch up locations, but we're back better than ever, and we're gonna dive right back into the conversation.
Yes, sir.
So Aniekan, one thing that I want to touch back on is like the spiritual battles that we have, you know, not only as people, but just as black people in general, because we're targeted specifically in a lot of different things. But one thing I want to talk about and touch on is the spiritual battle. We have to, the over two things is music, really made me think about that, but then over being exposed to sexual content at a young age.
Yeah. So I'll start with music. People aren't dumb. They know what they're listening to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they don't really know what they're listening to. And there's 4 stages of consciousness, right?
Okay.
Or is it 4 stages of like competence or something like that? I forgot what the actual title was, but there's 4 stages of this thing, and you find out. First one is unconscious incompetence. The second one is conscious incompetence.
Okay.
The third one is unconscious competence. And then the fourth one is unconscious competence.
Okay.
And so basically saying that there's stages of like knowing that you know something, not knowing that you know something, and then you don't know that you don't know something, you know, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about music, people know, there's people that know what they're listening to. There's people that don't know what they're listening to. There's people that know what they're listening to and know that that's what they're listening to, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
my bad to interrupt you. I feel like the people that know what they're listening to and know, those are the people that's pushing it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That, because they know how dangerous it is.
And
you know,
it's a whole. I'm trying to find a better way to, or a more polished way to kind of say this and stuff too. But so because first of all, black does not equal hood or ghetto or anything like that. So just first off, making that distinction, but there is a hood mentality. Yeah. And so, you know, it makes this whole cultural environment, and it's a product of racism, ironically, because if you just live that way without any restraints, and like that's just your life. And there are people that do, you know, I family members that doing stuff. So like I've seen it firsthand. Yeah. You're doing exactly what the white man wants. Yeah. And not to say that you're validating their racism or anything like that. At the same time, you got to be aware that they're already assuming that you're going to be like that. And so to them, it may validate it, but like, you know, you can't be doing that stuff and then be surprised when you get hemmed up. Yeah, facts. You know, because people will live that way and then be outraged when they get arrested. 100%. It's like, bro, you were just selling pounds of coke. Like, what are you? But and without getting into who's right or wrong or anything about that, it's just for us, since we're the ones being persecuted, we gotta know that. Yeah. And so just being aware of what we're listening to and what we're watching and how it affects our behaviors and affects our decision making. So then that way we can be more diligent in how we navigate the society that we live in. No, 100%. That's the key. That's the key, because like I told y'all earlier, is like I catch myself like repeating these same songs as soon as I wake up. And it can be a negative or positive song. I can repeat the songs as soon as I wake up. That's the songs I think of or even dream about sometimes, you know? And so me not understanding is like how deeply embedded that vibration and that energy absorbs in me if I'm dreaming about it. Right. You know, that's super powerful. And that's one of the things too, is I tell people, is like I listen to the same, especially when I'm in the gym, I listen to the same type of music, same
4 or 5 songs because I want to make sure that at all times I'm on a motivated, high frequency, you know, and that's what the music is a frequencies, you know, and they put it to certain levels to alter our spirits and everything too.
It's influencing your mind, and everything physical is a manifestation of the spiritual. Case in point, when you're listening to certain things and watching certain things on repeat, and that's what you're intaking, you know, we got a subconscious. You're filling your subconscious with that. When you act out of instinct, that's coming from your subconscious. And so that's why when you meditate on certain things, that's how you, like, some people just pop off on people or snap or whatever. They just go right to either anger or hate because that's what they're filling their heads with. And there's other people that are more patient and stuff, and that's because that's what they're meditating on, and that's their philosophies and stuff that they input. And when and you can look at neural pathways in your brain
and break that down too for us.
The neural pathways. So the neural pathways in psychology is basically like walking on grass. If enough people walk over that same path enough times, it turns into dirt, and then it turns into like a groove in the earth, and then it turns into like a road. And your brain is the same way. The more you do something, the more you travel that path, it gets deeper and deeper in your mind, and so that becomes habit.
Great example.
And habits form your character. And it all starts with what you're inputting. And even in scripture, it says that faith comes by hearing. And so whatever you're putting your faith into, whatever you're believing in, whatever you're doing, because faith is seen by your actions. And so whatever you probably heard the phrase, you could judge the tree by its fruit.
That it bears.
When you're seeing the fruit in somebody's life, it's a reflection of what they're believing, and they're believing something based on what they're hearing and seeing.
And that makes me think of a lot of different things. It's like, that's why it's so important that we speak light into each other.
Absolutely.
Especially our kids.
Absolutely.
You know, because like they get to a certain point, like everything that you tell your kids, especially because they're so young and I feel like they're open vessels because they're absorbing so much information.
They're sponges, bro.
They're sponges. And so that's why it's important for us to speak, first off, act out of love when it comes to our kids, and whether it's discipline or educating them, but then also too is teaching them empowerment, positive affirmations, loving things, because like you said, when they get older, they're going to be more, they're going to start bearing their own fruit because they're growing and they're bearing their own fruit. And we don't want seeds. Exactly. So I feel like that's super important. And so what are some of the ways that not only you feel like helps you kind of change, and improve your inner self, but then also ways other people can do it too?
It's God, bro. It's all God. The stretch that I came from when I was like 18 to I'm 25 now, not even 18, like 16, 17 to it's almost 10 years. Looking back, I can see it was all God. The past 3 or 4 years is when I started actually reading scripture and stuff. But I dove into it, bro. That's one of my favorite things to read, one of my favorite things to talk about. And so all the things because I mean, even aside from because there's like deep knowledge in there, like world, not like just deep, crazy things. But I feel like the most urgent and practical things is about how you govern yourself. Self-discipline is one of the most important things that you can have. Scripture talks about it a lot, but so how I end up improving and growing as a person, and how I think everybody would find their purpose and be their best self is one, based on my faith, is following God, believing in Jesus or Yeshua. I know there's some people who prefer the Hebrew, but regardless of that, there's facts in scripture, bro, and it's stuff like if you correct a fool, or if you correct a mocker, it's not gonna get anywhere. he's gonna lash out at you and argue with you and whatever. But if you correct the wise man, you know, he'll love you for that. He's gonna appreciate it and be like, oh, you know what, bro, you're right. Like, I appreciate you. You kept it real. You know,
yeah, that's powerful. Yeah,
and you know, you tell people. We tell people all the time, like, hey, your real friends will let you know about yourself. You know, like, hey, bro, you smelling yourself right now. Like, you know, you need to. That wasn't cool. You need to, you know, chill out on that, and they hold you true to your values and stuff, and you know, and that's just a small example, but like, there's things in there that I've read that, you know, it's a collection of scrolls and letters and witness accounts and stuff written across thousands of years, you know, 2,000 years ago, and it's still very relevant.
Yeah,
it's still very relevant because the human condition has always been there. Yeah, and the solution to that has always been there. But you know, not everybody believes what I believe, and that's fine. Yeah, but there is something there. Like, if you don't believe what I believe, there's still stuff in there that is very helpful. Like, there's even like financial wisdom and stuff in there. There's stuff for relationships, stuff for wartime stuff, like governing of some bodies of government. There's all kinds of information in there, and if people just did it, it would work. Yeah, but we're imperfect creatures and we're fallible and we mess up. So it's kind of impossible for us to do. But perfection isn't a destination; it's the journey.
It's the process. Yeah, it's the process. So yeah, bro. And so I want to dive a little bit into that, and that's going to be one of my last questions for you. But before even that, is one thing I like to do for every guest, because to me, you know, being able to learn and listen is the foundation of, you know, like progress. Yeah. You know, it's one of the foundations of progress. And so one thing I always like to do is, first is I give every guest a shirt. And so it was supposed to be a Mike Motivation Monday shirt, but I didn't have no more mediums. And so then I just got you one of these shirts right here, man. This is one of my favorite designs, and this design means a lot to me, just from like the origin of why I kind of did it, like being from UNI and everything like that, and doing like the bookstore stuff. Yeah. And so this year I would never give up, never settle.
That's raw.
Yeah. Thank you, dog.
That is raw.
And so this is all you, man.
I appreciate
your shirt.
Yeah, thank you.
And so then also this book I give, and that goes to the last point I was going to say, is giving each guest a book. And so this book right here is called The Last Pharaohs. And so it just talks about like pretty much the pharaohs and during the time of
ancient Egypt.
Yeah, ancient Egypt and everything like that. And it got a map in here talking about that. But yeah, the cover's not too appealing.
Hey, them are the best books.
No, yeah, for real.
Those be the best ones.
And low key, the reason why I got this, I didn't steal it. I just didn't return it. You know what I'm saying?
I see the stamp on the top.
Yeah, you see the stamp. So y'all see the stamp. You know, University of Northern Iowa. I love you guys, but it took too long. They already charged me for it, so I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And they be taxing for a late book. So
you bought it.
The Last Pharaohs. You know, this is all you. And I think that's some of the lines, because I did see a little from the artwork as far as what they was wearing in the comic book. Yeah, was that like origins from like a little bit of African origins from Egypt, a little bit?
All of my comics, it's all black comics. It's a black comic company, black characters, black stories. It's for us, by us type thing. Yeah. There is a lot of I wanted to draw from different cultures in Africa, because I feel like a lot of times Egypt is like the poster child of Africa.
100%.
You know, there's way more cultures. Than just
way
Egypt.
More.
But yeah, there is Egyptian influence. There's also I got stuff from the Igbo tribe, Yoruba, Kikuyu, Lemba. Even some Hebrew stuff. Okay. Just kind of all over to kind of incorporate and shine light on some aspects of black culture and black history that don't usually get the limelight. Yeah. But yeah, in the flagship title for my company, it's not out yet. I'm putting in a lot of time and taking my time with it. Okay. But there's a lot of mythology and Egyptian mythology and stuff from it. Okay. And I'm trying not to give away too much.
No, yeah, you don't got to. You don't got to.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there, and so even like their gods and goddesses and stuff, it was it's like aliens or something that came down.
Okay.
Or something like that, and it's really like giving you like okay, so they're talking about Ra, but Ra was like an alien word for sun, and ancient humans like misunderstood what they were saying, or like the pyramids, like they were trying to show them how to build a certain kind of structure or to build a spaceship or something, and so like they started constructing it, but because I mean, ancient Egypt, they had electricity.
That's what I was going to say, because
they had plumbing.
The pyramids
and stuff
was like actually power plants too.
Yeah, yep, yeah. So it's just touching on subjects like that, and like people who know will be like, that's the thing.
That's a gem.
But so it kind of just touches on those things, and but yeah, that when you first pulled that out, I was like, that's the perfect book, bro.
That's what I try to do is like, okay, what in energies. I feel like we're all in one consciousness, right?
Yeah.
And so books are, I feel like, energy sources, like little energy, like energy balls or something like that, right? What they call them, Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just playing. But I feel like I was like, okay, I always try to find a book that will resonate with the person I'm doing an interview with. Right. And so I'm like, okay, what's something that'll be perfect? And so I feel like my spirit was telling me The Last Pharaohs.
Yeah, bro. That one's solid.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I think this would be something that's really, resonate with you. And so,
yeah, bro. It's I really appreciate it. It's because all this no, not all. There's one comic that I'm working on. It'll be out next year. But it takes place across history and different like major events.
Okay.
And so one of them is during the siege of Jerusalem, when Rome was invading. Another one is in like the Vietnam War. Another one is in Kenya during the Mau Mau Revolution.
Okay.
Or the Mau Mau Rebellion when they got their independence and stuff, and just different stuff like that. And so I love getting history books and stuff, and like stuff that talks about, cause it just gives me more characters, more source material, more, stuff like that 100% to shine light on.
Yeah, and I definitely need to get some book recommendations from you too, bro, for sure. I'm gonna get some book recommendations from you. And so like my last question for you is, what comes to mind when you hear Never Settle?
We was having a conversation earlier when we first started, before we started rolling, and my dad was a 4-time state champ wrestler, and he was also my wrestling coach when I was little. And I just have this vivid memory. We were doing laps or something around the gym, and I really started getting this lesson at a young age. And as I'm I became an adult and growing in my maturity and stuff, that understanding grew. But what we were doing, we were taking these laps, and he was just saying, I don't care if you got to run, crawl, skip, cartwheel, somersault, walk, whatever, you just finish.
Yeah.
And he really ingrained willpower, and just some understanding of that. He ingrained that in me, and he's the one that taught me, like, your brain controls your body, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember I was at the gym. I was telling you this story. I was at the gym and I was hitting the pec flies, and your brain controls your muscles.
Yeah.
So even when your muscles feel like they can't go, your brain can force them to go. And so I was at the limits. My muscles were like, nah, that's it, bro. You gotta stop. And then I was just like, nah, forget that. I'm finna finish this. Like and then I finished it, bro. I felt like Superman coming off that machine, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm sure them people thought I was crazy because I got up off there. I was like, yeah, I was so hyped. But applying that to life, like, there's going to be all kinds of obstacles. There's going to be all kinds of book drop for you and for everybody watching. The War of Art. The War of Art. Not to be confused with the Art of War.
Okay, something different. Yeah, that's what I thought of. Yeah.
But The War of Art. Just Google that.
Okay.
Phenomenal book. Kind of talks about this. It definitely talks about this. But we have this environment and stuff, and it's so easy to give ourselves excuses to be mediocre and to justify settling less for what we were destined for. And it might be very reasonable things, very understandable things, like, oh, you know, I got to go get my kid from whatever, it's a family thing or this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
Totally justifiable things. But at the end of the day, did you finish? Did you finish your craft? Did you finish working on this thing that you said you were going to do today? Did you finish your workout? Did you finish writing that story? Did you finish reading that paragraph? Did you finish, you know? Yeah. Because we can find all kinds of reasons to justify cutting corners, to justify
just not doing it.
Yeah, just not doing it. And that is, you know, if you think about the yin yang symbol, that is the opposite force trying to stop us from achieving what we set out to achieve. Yeah. And so, but we're in control of our choices. And I saw this quote and it said, the difference between the life that you have and the life that you want is called choices. Bro, that hit me.
That's powerful.
That hit me. Everybody's saying, oh yeah, I want this money. I want this. I want that. Like, I want to live like this. Why don't you? Just choices. It's not a sprint, but you know, you could build those blocks. You could get up there. Cause I mean, we still young. I'm 25. Like, if it took me 10 years to do something, if it took me 10 years to be if it took me 20 years to be a millionaire, I'm 45 in 20 years. Balling. And I still got more than half my life. And so, and it's never too late. Even if you're 50 right now and you know, and it took 10, 15 years, you still 65, you know, people retire at that age anyways. You might as well retire as a millionaire. You might, you know, take the risk. Do it. Don't settle for what people are telling. Don't settle for the status quo and what people say is realistic, because it's only crazy until it's not. It's only crazy until you got it.
100%.
And so, like, when people say, oh, it's impossible to lift a car. Well, shoot, when I was saving my dog from getting crunched up underneath that one, and I stopped the car, I lifted up the car, I did, because there's real stories like that. That should be impossible, shouldn't it? But you had a strong enough motivation. You had a strong enough will in that moment, and some adrenaline. But it's possible. It's only impossible until it happens.
Oh, 100%. That's facts, man. That's powerful. Thank you, bro, for real. And thank you for doing this. And then before I share like the message and like a story, can you tell them like social media and everything like that, how to reach you and everything?
So y'all can get me at I got Instagram and social media and all that for my comic page. And that's Sensiil Studios, SENSIIL.
Okay.
Studios. And that's on Instagram, everything. And then, but like my main page is Chucks with a Tux. So, Chucks with a Tux. I went to prom, Chucks
with a Tux. Yeah, that's hard.
So,
that's hard.
But yeah, y'all can find me on there. I got websites and stuff that are all I post.
Okay, yeah, and I'll put the link in the YouTube too on the bottom. Yep. And then man, make sure y'all check it out for real. Show some love and support. And usually, like I said, at the end, I'll tell like a story that kind of comes to mind briefly. And so the story that comes to mind for me is like, there's something I like to do, like, is set up shop on, like downtown and like set my stuff up and sell it. Right. And so the reason why I got inspired is, I seen somebody doing it one time. And I seen him, he pull his stuff out. He's selling his stuff. And like, this is one time I was out too. He's young too. He's getting to it, pushing his brand. And so I'm like, I seen that and that just inspired me too. I'm like, man, I'm out right now. He's just out pushing his brand, doing that. Shout out to Cash Junkies too, man. But anyways, but he's out pushing his brand. I got really inspired by that. And so I'm like, you know what? It was on my mind for like 3 or 4 months before I did it. And so one time it was really nice outside. Shout out to my bro Malik. He was like, hey man, maybe you should set up shop outside tonight. And so when I went out and I was going to go do it, I got my box, threw my shirts in there. But there was like, it reminded me, you said the yin and the yang with, you know, what I think is one of the, it's like physics. He said, for every action, there's an opposite You know what I'm saying? Equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
You know, and so like that reminds me of the yin and the yang, in a sense of like as much energy as I had to go do it, I was just sitting in my car. There was something telling me not to, you know, and I had a huge level of fear, and I was like almost like pressure, just gravity, just pulling me down. Like, nah, don't do it. Until then I was like, you know what? I literally had to force myself to get out the car, bro, and go do it. And lo and behold, I set up on that corner, no cap. I sold a whole bunch of shirts. You know what I'm saying? I won't say how many shirts I sold, but I sold a whole bunch of them. And so that's when I learned a certain like way to approach and push my brand quickly, but then get the message across. You see what I'm saying? And so fast forward 10, 11 months later, and I appreciate you coming up to me at what's it called?
At Soul Camp.
So not Soul Camp, but at the one place where they got bowling, laser tag. Remember I ran into you, was like, hey man, I'm glad you did the bookstore stuff.
Yeah.
And so to tie it into that,
the
every spiel and every little talk that I use when I'm on that street corner, getting people to pull them in to buy my stuff, that's the same thing I use to get the bookstore deal done.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And so to spin that around is like, you can't never settle, bro. Like for real. Cause it's like, that if I would have never went on that street corner, I know for sure I would have never did the bookstore deal, because I would have never had enough courage to go out and do it. Get you
to that next level.
Get me to that next level. And then, like you said, it's about the process.
Yeah.
You know, it's the journey.
Yep.
You know, and that's what y'all need to focus on, the journey. Don't think about the results so much. Think about the journey, you know? And so, like I said, man, I appreciate you doing this, and then the whole switch up and everything. Like, I appreciate that time. Like, I hope you enjoyed the book, and we're gonna definitely got to do this again, man. For real,
absolutely. I'm gonna be back, bro. Because we got topics.
Yeah,
we got
for
topics.
Days.
I could go.
Yeah, go on and on. And even if y'all heard what we was just talking about between, then y'all have loved it too, for real.
Such good conversation.
No, for sure. And so
I was trying to tell him, we got to save some convo for the podcast.
Sure. I couldn't help it though. I couldn't help it. I almost called you in the car, but I was like, I'm gonna wait. You know what I'm saying? But nah, man. Never settle, y'all. Y'all have a great week. Stay positive, stay loving. And again, never settle. Peace.